All right, recording started. Today is Monday. We are basically in the last week of before code freeze for 1.9 for Kubernetes. Next week on Wednesday is the code freeze. What I'd really like to see is all the big major components that we have going into this release, at least the internal ones. Let's aim for having them LGTM'd and approved by Friday. It's a stretch goal, but if we reach for that, then we have a little bit of buffer next week and we're not going to be as panicked. Let me share my screen and then we can do a status overview. So what I wanted to do was kind of get a red, yellow, green going on each one of these. For the entry, so status update, the design doc was merged on Friday, thanks to Tim. So if there are any changes that you need to make, feel free to send out updates on that PR in the community repo and fix that. But otherwise, let's make sure that whatever we're coding against that doc. And if there's any changes that you make, just update the doc. So the API currently reflects what's in the doc. It has been moved from V1 to V1 Alpha 1. The tricky part of this was apparently the API machinery stores in etcd the objects as versioned. And when we made this change, it was initially assuming V1, and since the object didn't exist in V1, it was kind of blowing up. And so I hunted down the right people, and the suggestion was to modify how that object is stored, or so that object is only stored as V1 Alpha 1. That change has been made. I think there's still like one unit test breaking that I need to fix. Hopefully get that finished today. Otherwise, please make sure you've updated if you're using this. I think Jan is the only one who's using it to use this PR. I'm going to mark it as yellow for now, and then once it gets merged, we'll call it green. Oops, orange. Yeah, that works. The alpha gate, so since this is V1 Alpha 1, I think it's just naturally gated. The alpha APIs are not enabled by default. I need to go and double check this, but I'll do that, and then if there's any other further changes, I'll get started on that.
I think we still need alpha gate for the CSI volume source.
Yes, the CSI, oh, correct, yeah, you're right.
And all the changes in the controllers.
Yeah.
Or there are no changes in the controllers. Okay.
So let's break this into two. The CSI volume source we could probably bundle with this. Vlad, would you be okay just doing that as part of your PR?
Yeah, that's fine. I just need to know what. Do we need an alpha gate because it's basically?
So the problem with the volume source, I think I haven't taken a look at your PR yet, but are you introducing it as a V1 object? I imagine you are following the existing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means by default it'll be exposed to everyone, and we don't want everyone to be able to use it. So you need to hide it behind a feature gate. And there's a feature gating mechanism. If you look up, I think it's called feature gate. You should be able to just add a new.
Is that like a proposal or a write-up?
I'll see if I can dig it up and
I'll
send that to you.
If you point me in the right direction, I'll find it.
Okay. For the volume attachment one, I'm going to assume this is okay. We can update it tomorrow. And then kubectl changes for volume attachment API I need to make. So consider that red for now. Entry CSI volume plugin, Vlad. Do you want to break this into multiple components and call it mount
Yeah, the mounter is done. I'm testing. I'm at a good place. If we have time, I'll do a small demo.
Okay.
But because of all the API change, so I've had to spend this morning retrofit stuff. But the code itself is done. And then what I'll do is check that in and then start a new PR for the attacher stuff.
Okay. So I'm going to take a to-do to review that. And Jan, if you could take a look at that too, I think it'd be good.
Sure.
Is there a PR for that yet or no?
Yeah, there's a PR for that. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but
okay.
I'll post. Let me look for it and I'll post it.
Okay, thank you.
So the attach detach is next. Go ahead and get started on that. Let's see if we could get this done quick. You're going to need the volume attachment PR that I have out, so you're going to have to pull that into your code until that gets merged, and then rebase it if there's any changes, which I don't think there will be, but just a heads up.
So you have a volume attachment. Oh, you're talking about the type itself.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. And then kubectl changes for CSI volume object, which I think is going to be rolled into, let's just call this API changes, API / kubectl changes for CSI volume object. And it sounds like you already have the PR out for the volume object, right?
Yeah, there's a PR out for the volume object, which also has the, just to clarify, the kubectl change you're referring to is just the describe.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's already in there.
Okay. So we're going to mark that as orange until it gets merged.
Yeah.
And then next up is the feature gate, which I'll send you information on. Okay, so I think those are the big major components. If we have this stuff done by the end of the week, we'll be in good shape. End-to-end test, Luis, you want to give a status update here?
Yeah, this is something I'm starting this week.
Okay.
Taking your changes and your things and putting everything together.
Cool.
So I'll be talking to each of you, probably independently, figure out what to do, or maybe we can also spend some time at the end of this to figure out what is it that we can do, we expect for testing.
Yeah, let's talk about that at the end of the meeting then.
Okay.
I'm going to mark it as red for now since we haven't started it, and then we can move it as we move along.
Yep.
For device registration API, we're moving it out of alpha into beta. There's more on this in the design doc if you're interested. Kubernetes external changes. Let's start with the attacher since that's looking very healthy. Jan?
Yeah, I updated the error handling and I need to update it to Alpha 1 API, but that's just it.
Okay. And also the error model for CSI has been updated. That PR was merged on Friday, so you guys can go ahead and
I did that today. It's much nicer.
Okay.
Did that today too.
Jan, do you want to mark this as green or orange?
Whatever you want. Yellow.
Yellow? All right. External provisioner, Brad, how are you doing?
So I've dropped the code and I don't know, I can make it run through the mechanics of like creating a storage class and a PVC and show that the provisioner calls a provision and a delete method when it's supposed to. I don't have the API, the new API type imported for CSI, so creating the actual PV object's not there, and then actually the CSI endpoint call is not there.
Okay.
Those are the only two outstanding pieces, and I just figured when the rest of the stuff drops, it'll probably be a couple lines to drop in there.
Perfect.
That said, I'm going on PTO starting the end of this week for like 2 weeks.
Okay.
And it'll be past the deadline, so it's not a training. ways, but I don't think it matters.
Okay, so do you want to hand it off to maybe Jan after you're gone, or who's going to take over? Or
Yeah, I can hand it off, or else just wait. I mean, it's on a tree, so it doesn't really have to be in by the same date as everything else. But
okay, and you're just hoping to be code complete by end of week before you go.
yeah, I was hoping to be, but I don't know that it will be because we'll see. If it's not, I don't think it's a big deal. Is what I'm getting at too.
So what I want to do is make sure that we're able to, like after code freeze, which is next Wednesday, kind of start like end-to-end testing things, putting all these components together and making sure they're working. And if we have somebody to poke and say, yo, there's an issue with the provisioner or something like that, that would be nice.
Yeah, I'll hand it off to either Jan or Matthew or somebody on this side to get it finished.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to mark that as orange for now. End-to-end deployment of packaging. Luis, any updates here? I think you're planning on starting on this week.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Sidecar container for...
Actually, just a quick question on that one.
Sure.
Where should it go? In this?
I would put it in
repo?
the same Kubernetes CSI repo.
Okay, I'll do that.
Create a packaging sub-repo underneath there.
You got it.
Or deployment, or I don't know. I'll leave it up to you.
Sure.
Sidecar container for kubelet registration. I need to work on that this week. Sample plugin, CSI, Flex Adapter, Chakri.
Yeah, I'm almost there actually. I'm finishing up the controller code.
Okay.
So, yeah, the only thing I still need to, we'll talk it in the end. Actually, I have some questions regarding the external provisioner, how the Flex is going to work together. So we'll talk it in the end. But yeah.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Do you want to give a status update on the rest of these, or?
Yeah, rest of these are like, once you have the flags, you'll anyway get the NFS by default with that. But I'm going to do a separate plugin for that. NFS and iSCSI are the only two things.
Okay. And then AWS, Azure, we'll just knock these as beta.
Actually, just a quick thing. Don't kill mine. I'm done.
Oh, sorry.
One of the things is actually that I brought this up to people. Oh my goodness, you're really destroying it now. Is that I brought this up to people at Portworx. I didn't know this because I'm still kind of new. But the way I'm doing it is we have an abstraction called lib open storage, and that has NFS, AWS also behind it, other than Portworx. So the demo that I wanted to show on Friday, which I have all set up working today, is it's with NFS actually,
Okay.
with CSI in the back end. So it could be that we, when that lands, it'll have those two automatically.
Oh, you're saying the NFS and iSCSI is already done by you?
NFS and AWS, yes.
NFS and AWS. So I have one question though. That's actually this will maybe I don't know, maybe we need a broader discussion. Is do we need another abstraction API in between? How does it? Because I see that there are so many abstraction APIs popping up, right? So the way I'm doing it is I don't have any lib storage. I'm just putting it at drivers, and in the drivers I'm calling it a lib, and the lib, most of the functionality which is default is in there.
I don't disagree with you. This is a history thing. The drivers were there already, and they have clients in front, and CSI is a client.
Okay.
Just like there was a, if you think about it that way, in Portworx, lib OSD is just an interface, a Golang interface, and then you got clients like CSI, you got Docker for previous one, and then you have our own RESTful interface.
Okay.
So
the way I'm doing right now is, I'll tell you, right? I have a drivers and a lib. The lib has a, let's say, identity service default, controller service default. And all that does is, if you want to implement your own driver, you can inherit the default functions. And if you want to implement some functions for your functionality, you can implement it.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing kind of the same thing. It's all the same. You have an interface you talk to, and it takes care of it.
Yes, but I'm just putting it in the Kubernetes, the Kubernetes CSI, and I'm calling it inside it. There's a drivers and there's a lib. So the only thing is how many conflicting factors. The one thing which we might want to avoid as a group is if you have too many choices to start with, again, it's going to be too tough for people to make it.
Yeah, I'm not. Let me start over. I'm not saying I'm pushing for OST to be the thing. I'm just saying that I'm programming it for Portworx, and it happens to go with OST, and it already has NFS and AWS.
Okay.
It's an example.
Okay.
I'm not saying that we should, as Kubernetes, say this is the way to go. All right. I'm saying that here's an example of one method to do it. I'm sure RexRay has another, and you have another. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So yeah, even Flex is going to have one more, but the way the NFS plugin I'm thinking over here is going to be complete CSI compliant. You don't have a mid layer in between at all.
Yep,
so
that's what I'd like to see.
Flex, but NFS and iSCSI will be completely bare bones CSI plugins. They won't have any layer in between, except that piggyback on some of the library functionality, so that we don't want to implement some functions, don't implement it.
Yep. And would it be okay to move those down to P1?
Oh, you want to do the P1? Okay.
I'm just marking them as P1 because I think they're probably less critical than say the CSI Flex adapter, which we're already working on.
Yep.
And then once that's done,
yep. Okay.
Prioritize. Okay.
Actually, I do. This brings up another question. I think that probably, as an example, only NFS is needed.
Okay.
Because my concern is that, and this is something you just brought up, is that this is a community repo, and will probably not be updated as often because people won't be using it in production. It's just an example. So we probably want to just keep a very simple one for NFS. That's would be my suggestion. So don't do any of the other ones.
I mean, I'm okay with bumping the priority on that. I agree that it would be a useful example. I don't think it should be the example because it doesn't actually implement an attacher. To see something that has an attacher and it'll be more than just NFS to me. We'll probably need a couple of examples.
Yeah, I would say that we need at least one of GC and AWS just to create, because those are the ones which are the complete workflow end to end. But yeah, let's see how it goes. Anyway, we have time, right? These are external, so if we pull off, we can just mark them green. Done with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, sounds good.
And Portworx, Luis?
I have create and delete now ready.
Nice.
So I'm very close to being complete. The next one's mount and unmount. So.
Cool. All right. Next up, CSI community. So error model for CSI was completed. I think some folks had feedback after the PR went in. It should be pretty minor. It's like tweaking what errors to return in what places, things like that. But the big pieces are already there, and so take a look at that. Next one I want to take a look at is mount. Actually, so we discussed mount device last week in the CSI meeting. And the community doesn't, or the other folks don't really want to do mount device, at least not until beta. The argument for mount device is that it makes the life of the volume plugin author easier because they don't have to manage doing reference counting to figure out when to unmount the device and mount the device. But it complicates by introducing more calls into CSI, and so people are resistant. People are naturally resistant to change, and this wasn't in there initially, so it's probably not going to get into alpha, but I'll keep tracking it for beta. And so I'm going to cross this off for now, and then we can revisit it in beta, and then I'll see what else needs to go into this section. I'm going to review the open bugs and see if there's anything that we are blocked on for alpha and push that. Next up is the CSI community unit test libraries. Luis, I think this might, it's not critical for alpha, but I don't know if you've had a chance to start on it. I think you did.
That was done like a month ago.
Yeah, or would you consider that complete, or?
Yeah, it's complete. If anything else happens, we just add on to it.
Cool. I am sending pull requests to that to adapt to new errors and piece of API. So Luis, if you have time, look at
got it.
Is it okay to mark this green, or do you want to mark it orange? What do you feel like?
No, green's good.
It's green.
Cool.
It's okay.
That is good. Okay, so over the next week, meaning by Friday, let's try to turn as many of the oranges to green as possible. And then let's turn as many of the reds into oranges as possible. This is going to be a tough week. Let's make it happen. And then beginning on Thursday, I'm going to be on call internally. But I'm going to try to keep on top of this stuff as much as possible at the same time. But it's possible that I might get pulled off because of calls and things like that. Just a heads up. And that's going to last for a week. Okay, so demo.
Do we have time?
We got 5 minutes.
I know Louis was. Louis? You could go because since you tried last week.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. I have everything ready this time.
One design question. Do you want to talk about it or?
Yeah, let's talk about the design question first.
All right.
Yeah. So when we do the flex, right? Today, flex and dynamic provisioning are kind of like a separate entities.
Yes.
But we're trying to come up with a single CSI plugin.
Mm-hmm.
So how they're going to both integrate and then come up with a single.
So as far as Flex is concerned, Flex will be a CSI driver that does not implement attach or detacher, create delete.
So, but create delete. Okay, they are part of the controller service API, controller service, right? So
they are part of the. So if you look at the CSI spec, there's capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So volume plugins advertise what they support and what they don't support.
Yep,
and
yep.
Create and delete are both optional. As
Okay.
attach and detach. So create and delete, in this case, the Flex volume would say, I don't support it.
So in that case, if somebody wants to move, then they will actually have to do an existing way of dynamic provisioning.
Right.
It's not going to go through CSI.
Yeah, and which is the case, right? Like if they already have an external provisioner, then they leave their external provisioner as is. They have the Flex driver, and the Flex driver just gets routed through CSI.
Okay, perfect. So in this model, okay, I'll update it. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was doing, but I just want to make sure that if you are doing the dynamic provisioning, you just need to document it properly.
Okay, cool. All right, Luis, go ahead.
All right. Let's do this. Let's see, share my screen. Oh, you're sharing because I can't share my screen.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
All right. All right. So I have my what we call lib open storage running, and then we have, as you can see here, we have NFS running. And it's not just listening on NFS for CSI; it's also listening for the other type of clients. So they all kind of just come in and deal with the single driver in the back end. So we have NFS CSI, and then we have also the Docker installation, and then anything else. So what I'm going to do here is I use the CSC tool from EMC, and then let me just get in my display, and there's nothing there. There's no volumes created. Okay. Also, it's running NFS, so if I go to my NFS directory, cat etc exports, and then so I ls scratch, there's nothing there. Okay. So and then I go to Docker and say Docker volume list. Right, there's nothing there. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to create a volume using CSI. So we're going to say CSC new endpoint 27.0.1 49.59. And then we're going to say required bytes. This is just for now. But then we can also pass parameters part of the spec. We don't need any parameters. So we're going to say CSI vol 1. So there it is. This is my CSI volume. I can now
this created against where?
Against my backend running lib open storage. NFS, that's my backend.
Okay, so this created a share called CSI vol 1 in NFS.
Yep, there it is. If I go
using
to scratch,
CSI, right?
Yep,
Okay.
using CSI.
Okay.
So now if I go to Docker and I say Docker volume list, there is the NFS too. Okay, so what we can do too is we can say something like Docker volume create dash d nfs Docker vol 1. That's created, and I can go back here, go to the list, and there's both of them, right? Using CSI. So now I can, from CSI, I can list, and from Docker, I can list. Okay, same, two different APIs going to the same thing. So now, that's the volume list, and now I can say Docker run with the CSI volume, CSI vol 1, on data, busy box. And then I can say it is okay, and I can see, where is it? Am I missing it? Oh, no, df dash. Yeah. Oh, there's slash data right there. So, this instead. I didn't do it with that one before. CSI, Docker, volume list.
So sorry, when you do
Docker I
volume,
misspelled it. That's why. Go ahead.
Just dumb question. So you have your storage control plane, which can create, delete, list, all these things, and you create a CSI endpoint, and you have Docker also able to manipulate volumes. Is that endpoint that you exposed to Docker already, or how does that work?
So if I say Docker volume Docker info, we have here, right there. See the plugins on that one too?
Got it.
So in other words, we're trying to say we have multiple clients coming in.
Okay, and so both of them can manipulate it. They update the state in your storage control plane.
Yep.
And view the updated state from either place.
Correct.
Okay.
And if I don't misspell things, then I can actually want it. Let's see here. Okay. There we go. There's the scratch. You see that right there?
Mm-hmm.
So now if I say cat onto /data/text, and I'm going to say hello world, then I can kill this. I can say cat scratch. What was it? CSI vol text. There's hello world. So the cool thing is that that volume was created using CSI, and now it can be managed by Docker. But now we can also say let's go to scratch, and I can delete it now. CSC delete this endpoint 001 4959, and the volume name CSCI. I don't know why I did that. Messed up. Anyway, call the name, and now we can use the thing, and now it's gone. You can also say let's scratch.
Nice.
And there it is. It's gone.
That's cool.
Okay. So what we do later is that we'll just, this is, again, the code, well, it does is to take CSI and changes to what we call lib open storage. And the back end will just change the portworx, and everything should just work. Okay. That's it. That's all I have.
Nice.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks.
Questions?
No.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, thanks. So last thing, Vlad, you have a ton on your plate this week. You're our superhero. Please be okay asking for help if you need it.
Yes.
Ask me, ask anybody.
I mean, besides the, let me look at the doc. Besides the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean the attacher.
Yep.
Pretty much have a strategy for that.
Okay.
And then figure out how to gate the features.
Okay.
Am I missing anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, once the attacher is in, I'm going to take a look at the other code that already exists, and hopefully we can keep that moving very quickly and get that LGTM'd and approved.
Yeah. Let me.
Okay.
I think I'm at a spot to get the current code. It should be stable. I don't think I want to touch it anymore.
Okay.
I can change focus, but I'll take a quick look and then I'll ping you so you can take a look at it.
Sounds good. And the other thing I was going to ask Brad is, do you think Wamin rootfs would be interested in helping with some of the volume plugins on this, or?
Yeah, I can ask him. He's getting pulled to a different project potentially, but I don't know. Let me see around.
I want to make sure he feels included because he used to work on a lot of the volume plugin stuff, and it'd be nice to get him if he's interested.
Yeah, he knows that stuff pretty deep too.
Yep.
So let me ask.
You have there's one task, the cube cuddle. It's orange. I mean, unless I don't understand what's being asked, I think it should be green, which is.
Let me take a look at that. Is this the one I've got highlighted right now?
Yes.
So it's the API and kubectl. I think it just needs to be code reviewed right now. I'm not marking things green until they're like LGTM'd and approved.
Okay. All right.
So
sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
That was pretty much all on my plate. I think there was another item for images from external containers. Who added that?
It was me. We should start putting things together soon, gamma files and this kind of stuff. So where should we put the images? Like Docker Hub?
I'd like to put them in GCRIO. If you guys are okay with that.
Do I have an account there?
Yeah. I don't know. I need to go and dig in and figure out what the permissions and that kind of thing is.
Why don't we just do it in Docker Hub for now, and then we can always move it later.
That makes sense. Okay, let's do that then.
But we need a team in Docker Hub. We can create the same things, Kubernetes as CSI.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's do that. And then if we need to pull it in GCRIO, we can do that too.
Yeah, Jan, you want to create that?
Okay, tomorrow in the morning.
Oh, yeah, I can do it. I'll do it. I'll create a team. And I'll start inviting you guys if I can find you in GitHub. I mean, in Docker.
Okay, cool. And then Vlad will punt your demo to Wednesday.
Yeah, that's fine. I know it was going to crash anyway. Because of the changes.
That's what happens.
I knew it was going to crash, but I wanted to kind of show up to what the point it crashed that, things are actually moving forward and working. So
nice.
But that's fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye out for that on Wednesday. All right, thanks everyone. Anything else?
Well, just one thing is E2E test. So what I'm probably going to work on this week is really the deployment first, because that's independent, and I'm going to start creating those YAML files and things like that, especially as we create names for the containers. But the E2E tests, I'm a little bit confused about on exactly what we need to do to test, because I don't know if we want a week left, or this could be past the time.
So what I'd like to see for the E2E tests is a
because we don't have no drivers.
Dummy CSI driver that exercises the core Kubernetes code paths of create, delete CSI volume, attach, detach CSI volume, and mount, unnot CSI volume.
Okay, but that would mean that we require a driver that's a dummy driver.
That would.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Or do we use the mock stuff, or do we use the EMC stuff?
Any of those options would be valid.
I would rather. I mean, if we're talking about end to end, I would rather see an actual driver.
Yeah.
Dummy.
Me too.
So we have one called VFS, which uses the local file system as a dummy storage system.
Yeah.
And there's also an actual mock, which is a mock in memory. But either one of those, I think, because the reason why I'm saying that, I am using, I'm doing a fake driver internally, and I'm pretty sure I don't have all the rules baked in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's purely just to make sure that the calls are passing unit tests, whereas in end to end, you probably want something that is giving you a real view of what
Okay, that actually works.
Yeah.
So this is my discussion, because when we have an end-to-end we normally want a real driver that supports also attach and unattach, detach, and also a driver that gets updated often, not just one as other. So what I think my suggestion is that an end-to-end driver may need to be wait until next one. I think what we need to do now is make sure that our APIs send the call and get expected stuff, just mock, because then we can say that we can include a driver later, but it is up to that driver's behavior we'll be testing against. What I would like to say is that we have the correct expectations according to the spec, and we can mock everything to according to the spec, right? And then we can insert an end-to-end driver later, but that driver may have errors because it doesn't do things exactly to the spec. It has its own behavior things.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think we can delay the real end-to-end test until next month.
Yeah.
I think the test can go in after code freeze. You can always add in tests or manipulate tests kind of thing. So that should be okay. But I guess what I'm saying is it's not really a true end-to-end test, but kind of like integration tests for the stuff that Vlad is writing and the components that are going to do the mount and unmount. The in-tree components, we should have some sort of like Kubernetes end-to-end test, which is not really a true end-to-end test, just to exercise those components and make sure that there's some coverage there.
It just seems like this is probably a bigger discussion than just now. We may have to spend a lot of time thinking exactly what we want to do for testing.
Okay.
Because we're coming in with a lot of moving parts.
Yep.
And I want to make sure that when we line them all up, we're testing the correct thing, and we have the correct expectation. Yep. I mean, that's the whole part of testing, the expectation part. So what would you like to do? You want to wait until Wednesday and we start discussing that deeply?
We can do that.
Or we're going to do it Tuesday?
Either way works, whatever you prefer.
I'm okay with Tuesday.
Let me check my schedule on Tuesday.
Because if not, my other plan is to work on just continue work on the driver.
Okay.
And the deployment stuff.
Okay. All right.
So
Focus
either way,
on
I have
deployment
work.
stuff, and then on Wednesday we can talk about the tests.
That's okay with me.
Okay. Cool. I'll put it on the agenda for Wednesday.
And Vlad, you say you're using some stuff now anyway for testing?
Oh, I'm just doing mocking.
Yeah.
For testing.
But you're testing your API. Yeah.
Basically, unit tests to make sure that when the Kubernetes API are triggered, they're making it all the way through down to the client, the gRPC client.
Yeah.
So it's some of the stuff I was going to show today, but we could look at them.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about this on Wednesday because I want to see what we can do.
Okay.
I'm using their EMC mock server, and it just works.
Yeah.
Maybe we can base it on that.
Yeah, I use that when I do a cluster. Yeah, cluster local to test my code. So I have it running in the background, and
nice.
And I deploy a PVC in a pod, and then watch it get deployed.
Excellent.
But okay, I have quite a bit of orange, so I need to
get back to work. All right, thanks, guys.
Take care.
All right, guys. See you.
Bye.